nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm back like black tracksuit with a black top cap. People love to try, people love to lie. People forget, stop, remember that. We done them good, you remember that. We needed someone, here's the facts. But people love to try, people love to lie. Yeah, this is London, mind the gap. Living life just multitasking. Smile like a horror movie, I'm laughing. Motivated and focused, crafting. Dash something in a break, all your eggs in a basket. Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Please don't try it. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm right. Vibes are here when I am outside. Born for the flows to keep the flows tight. Tell me why they love to lie. Soul is dark but the mind is bright. Nocturnal, we live for the night. You wanna try but yeah, not quite. Monster with the bars, yeah, I might bite. If I have to, I tighten up the mic. See me, I don't do it for the likes. Keep it Air Max, yeah, like my knives. Ooh, I like to plan before I strike. But what do they know? Frequency's high, it never gets low. But yeah, what do they know? You're dripping in drama from head to toe. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always?
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Can everyone hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me, please. And hear me clearly at that. We had a little bit of extra news come in the last hour. So I had to just make sure that I had all of that. We've got a lot of fast moving stories. And, well, if you'd have told me when I started this podcast, I'd be reporting on the type of things I'm reporting on now. Oi, I don't know what I would have said to you. I don't know what I would have said. I mean, I always said there was so much more to this. Oh, just realized my screen is blank. I always said that there was so much more to this story than met the eye, right? There was so much more to the smear campaign against Meghan than met the eye. There was so much more to what happens in the Unruh Mafia that meets the eye. But I had no idea we'd be here. Just as a warning, the second half of this podcast, when we talk about Dan Wooten, there is talk of things that are very distressing. So if you are not in the headspace to listen to that, I please encourage you to protect your peace and perhaps go and listen to something a little bit more rosy. This channel isn't going anywhere. The replays of these videos are going anywhere, and you can listen any other time. I don't want anybody's energy or peace to be disturbed. And thank you so much to the person who just bought a coffee. Much appreciated. Right, let's get into it, shall we? Black Queen, is that Billboard for real? I wish it was, but I don't think it is. I feel like we should fundraise to put up a billboard like this. Okay. Start with some good news. Yeah, some good news. We do have some good news. We are coming closer and closer to Harry and Meghan's birthday months. So Meghan's birthday is August 4th, and Harry's is September 14th of no, September 14th or 15th. Please someone remind me. But we're at that time of the year where we usually do our fundraising, and the squaddies who have control of the Twitter street seem to be putting something together. So as and when they are ready to announce whatever it is they're working on, of course, I will announce it here on this channel. But as always, like I always say, or like we all say in the squad is not a monolith. If you have any ideas, anything that you want to put out there, as long as it is through an official charity page or an official organization that raises money for charity, like say Just Giving, feel free to go ahead and do your own thing. You don't have to wait for anyone. If you know that you can get people behind it, go straight ahead. But as always, there is a group of squaddies that work with Sussex community events to do like one big fundraiser. So excited to see what they put together. Also, just a reminder, I know that a lot of people slept on Meghan Misunderstood by Sean Smith, because I think at the time Finding Freedom was getting more of the attention. But please do go and show this book some love. If you've read Spare and you want something else to read that gives a fair and balanced look at the Sussexes, specifically Meghan, then go and read this book by Sean Smith. And he actually tweeted some time ago, he said, a columnist being rude about Prince Harry's school exams reminded me that when researching Meghan Misunderstood, I was told a reason Meghan was so disliked was that whenever she walked into a room, she was the most intelligent person in it. Now imagine you are a 100-year-old institution, and no one in there can match up to a lady from California. Are you not embarrassed? This is very embarrassing. All of that privilege and money, it really just amounts to nothing if you as people bring nothing to the table. They go to the table where the crowns and the jewels, stolen of course, are already laid out, and they put on costumes. There's no substance underneath that. But just a reminder to go and check out that book. I haven't read it, but lots of squaddies have. They highly recommend it. And Sean Smith actually was in a squaddie space not too long ago that he did an interview with some of the other squaddies on Twitter. So he's a real one. On to some other news. This portrait of Kate. Now, I remember when this portrait first came out, there was a lot of uproar about it. A lot of people didn't like it. Some people did, but generally it didn't get a very good reaction. And apparently the royal household also did not like it, because it's now being shuffled off into storage, and if you want to see it, you have to request to see it from the archives. Now, I actually think that this is a perfect depiction of Kate, and it's not actually so much the way she looks. It's the expression, like very, very tight in the lips, like she's holding something back. The way the eyes are just so laser focused. I mean, this actually reminds me of the day that they did the walkabout for the Queen's funeral, when Meghan was dragged to that awful walkabout. It actually, her facial expression here reminds me of that day. And also, I think that the use of lighting in this picture is perfect. There's this soft angelicness to the way the light lands on her face in the front, on her face and on her hair, but there's this morbid darkness that comes from the back. And I actually think that the artist um showed her spirit in this portrait. I think that this is a very, very accurate portrait of Catherine, but obviously the palace did not like it. She likely did not like it, and they are now shuffling it off into storage. And I don't actually think that she has. I think maybe she has one other. Her and William. Oh no, her and William have a portrait together, but I think this is her only official portrait, if I'm not mistaken. That was quite interesting. Also, this popped up. I would love to see more academic research into the treatment of Meghan. And I think in years to come, we're going to see it. So this is a keyword analysis of press coverage of Meghan the first month after her relationship to Harry was announced. She hadn't even spoken a public word yet. And this is for all the people who say Meghan was welcomed. People were nice to her. So it's split into categories and the tabloid keywords and then the broadsheet keywords, right? So on Meghan's background, you have words like accomplished, bankruptcy, bloodbath, Compton, crime-ridden, crimes, debt, drug-induced, gang-afflicted, gang-scarred, gangland, plaguing, rags to riches, riddled, robberies, roughest, star-studded, tatty, theft, troubled, vandalism, ventures, violence, wars. Then you have a couple like semi-positive words in between: screen star, screen queen, showbiz, star-studded. Then the broadsheet keywords: accomplished, acting, activist, actress, calligraphy, campaign, entrepreneur, humanitarian, jet setter, recognizable, sparkly, talent, volunteering. So you see the difference between the tabloid keywords and the broadsheet keywords. Right, and then when they're talking about family, history, and ancestry, tabloid keywords, exotic DNA, genetically rich, watery. Exotic DNA, obviously coming from Bojo's sister, and we're going to get onto that witch in a minute. And then in the broadsheets, it actually gets a bit nasty. It says bloodline, purity, threatens trespassing. And then when it comes to her physical appearance, haughty, leather, petite, posterior. So checking out her ass. Revealing, sexy, skimpy, unbuttoned. And then the broadsheet, hot pants, sexy, shiny. I mean, that's pretty much in line with the way that women are objectified in media. And then on her qualities and overall character: boasting, driven, feisty, minxy, narcissist, narcissistic, opinionated. And then on the broadsheet keywords: engaged, outspoken, perfect, proper, self-assured, self-made. So a little bit more positive on the broadsheet keyword side. And then on the sexuality: crotch, footage, lazy, PORN, hub. They try to link her to P-hub, risque, saucy, steamy. So there's a couple of nice words sprinkled in between, a whole bunch of vitriol. And this woman had not uttered a single word yet. So already they were painting an image of her. And I tweeted something yesterday regarding the way in which Meghan's past life, pre-royal life, there was, I believe, an attempt to erase her pre-royal life. And that included getting her to shut down her blog and her Instagram. Because I don't understand how, if you as an institution want to show that you are a shining example of what one should aspire to, why would you get the most accomplished person to walk into your family to almost delete their entire past? I'm not saying that Meghan would have continued to write on the TIG or write on her Instagram page, but surely they should have remained open as an archive there was nothing incriminating at all on either the TIG or her Instagram. Mind you, the internet is forever, and a lot of the TIG blogs are archived anyway by fans, right? But if you erase someone's accomplishments, if you erase everything that they were before they enter your institution, you can create a new version of them. You can create what we see on the screen now, all those words. And I think that they did not want the comparisons between Meghan's accomplishments and their own complete and utter failures, to be honest. Because how many projects did Meghan do in 2 years that she was in the institution? Loads. More than William and Kate did in their time as working royals. So I would like to see more academic analysis of the way Meghan was treated and the way that her narrative was recreated for her when she entered this institution, despite the fact that she had a whole life behind her, and the way in which people were so willing to believe the tabloid press and the royal institution, despite the fact that she lived a whole life before, and many people could easily vouch for who Meghan was and her character before she entered the institution. And I also, before I go into the next thing, I also just want to say that by erasing or getting her to erase the TIG and her Instagram, they've also erased part of royal history. Because now that she's married into this family, she is a part of royal history. And in generations and generations and generations to come, when historians look back and say, well, who was Meghan the Duchess of Sussex? In 300, 400, 500 years, the same way we look back and say, who was Anne Boleyn? Who was Henry VIII? When historians look back, they're more likely to see vitriol than they are whoever Meghan was. I'm sorry, who she really was, away from the lies of this institution and the press. And, it's important that we have records of what she was doing before she entered this royal institution, because they can either misinterpret and manipulate who she was or erase her entirely. There's this old age debate about Princess Charlotte, whether or not she was, biracial or had any other ethnicity mixed into her, right? And these are the type of things that we need to avoid. Let's not forget that they tried to erase her from Archie's birth certificate, for goodness sake. And this institution has been able to stay as powerful as it is because they play the long game. And if it means they wait 200-300 years to erase someone who they don't want to be part of their history, they will do that. So I hope that Meghan had everything archived, and that hopefully we'll see those posts again, because they were amazing. And I would love to relive who she was before she entered this institution. Right, as I mentioned earlier, Rachel Johnson, the one who wrote about Meghan's exotic DNA. She was on LBC and she said, I would like to think that Nigel Farage can bank with Coots, just as I would like to think that Jeremy Clarkson is free to express his extremely unsavory opinions about the Duchess of Sussex. This is the country that I want to be in. Rachel Johnson wants to be in a country where men feel free to say things like, I want to strip a woman naked and have a parade through the streets and have feces thrown at her, and that I hate her on a cellular level, even though I don't know her. That's the type of country that you want to live in, when people are nasty for no reason, when people with whose platforms are nasty for no reason and influence and embolden other people to think that way. Definitely not the type of country that I want to live in, especially when that level of vitriol has been sanctioned by her own family. Let us not forget that the day before that article was published, Jeremy Clarkson was out on a lunch with the now Queen Camilla. Ridiculous. And somebody tweeted, Rachel Johnson, since you are for freedom of speech, why don't you tell us about the gossip concerning a senior royal that was so thermonuclear that it scorched the inside of your eyelids? Is your freedom of speech only important when Meghan is insulted? So Rachel Johnson, if you missed it, wrote an article some time back where she said this. She said that there was a piece of royal gossip that was so thermonuclear that it scorched the inside of your eyelids. And if you've been watching this podcast, or if you've been on these royal streets for long enough, you probably have an idea of what that could be. And indeed, if we are paying £100 million a year plus for this institution, and Miss Johnson is calling for freedom of speech, well, shouldn't I have freedom to for that information? It's freedom of speech until Dan Wooten gets outed for blackmail, and there is a complete and utter blackout across the entire UK media. Rachel Johnson. Right, to your comments before we go into the next thing. Oh, it's exhausting, guys. Exhausting. Okay, first of all, thank you so much to Matthews for the super sticker. Connie Bomber, hey, hey. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Always happy to have you here. Right, I think there's been over 200 comments, so I'm gonna just try and skim through the standout ones. Lydia, you said, we love you, Anne, but we need more like you on YouTube to give more positive shout outs to Meghan. And this is why I keep encouraging everyone. If you want to create a platform, do it. Do it, do it, do it. You know, I don't always have time to watch everybody's, but you know, pick your favorite ones and just watch when you can, and don't feel, you know, put off. We need more platforms to drown out the hate, because unfortunately people want the hate more than they want the joy. So please, this is not a competition, it is a team sport. And I do sincerely apologize. I have been sleeping on Facts and 2 Cents. I've actually been going back today and catching up with some of their videos. You know, Petal does such an incredible job. Like, there's things that I've been picking up in her podcast that I actually miss out. So there's a link to Facts and 2 Cents. Please go and subscribe. Let's get her subscribe account up, and yeah, make sure you go and support her, because there are things that I've realized that I've missed out, and I'm like, whoa, she's doing an amazing job on her channel. And she does both lives and also pre-recorded premieres. So check both her video tab and her live tab. Right, let's see what else. Yeah, TB, she was not welcome from the beginning. It was all negative. And they want to gaslight people with, oh, but look at the people who showed up for a wedding. Everybody's going to show up for a wedding. What are you talking about? It's a wedding. Like, is anybody going to be nasty about a wedding? Of course not. And for the press, that was a payday. Okay. Oh. Connie said, could there be a troll here? If there are trolls, mods, please kick him out. Get out the troll spray. Benjamin, you said, it's gotten to the point I see their names and I assume it's a bad story and I scroll past. Yeah, well, you know, Harry has said he's made it his life's work to make sure that these tabloid papers face consequences, and we will do our best on these streets as well. Yeah, BC, it's because they didn't know, they didn't want anyone to know how accomplished Meghan was. And even the time that she was a working royal and she would do interviews and things, did you notice that often there were things that she wouldn't say? Or things that she wouldn't bring up, even if they were relevant to the moment. Because it would just make people realize, whoa, this Meghan lady. I mean, I've been looking through Twitter and there are people who are just discovering Suits and they're like, whoa, is that Meghan? Like, yeah, that's our girl for 8 seasons. Okay, let's go on to the next thing because today's it's going to be a really long podcast and we're already like 25 minutes into this. Okay, what do we have here? Oh, yes, just quickly before we move on from the messy Johnson family. Right, there is a young lady, well, she's in her 30s, called Charlotte Owen. She has now become a peer in the House of Lords. Now, she is 30 years old. She's now going to be the youngest peer. And when somebody is given a peerage in the House of Lords, that is for life. So if she lives until 90, that's at least another 60 years. Now, the House of Lords, you are handed a peerage through someone of authority. So in her case, it was Boris Johnson that gave her a peerage. The House of Commons is slightly different because you have to be voted into that seat. And here you can see the split between Tory, Labour, Liberal Democrats, and all other parties currently in the House of Lords. The controversy with this woman is there are rumours, allegedly, that she is either a love child of Bojo or allegedly a former mistress. That's what word on the streets is. Apparently, there was some kind of the reason this rumor kicked off was because there was some kind of super injunction that was taken out or something like that. There have also been other rather controversial appointments in the House of Lords also. And you've got to remember that the House of Lords, it is heavily involved in legislation. They are meant to help hold the government accountable and look at public policy and propose amendments to bills. And if you look at where certain things are going regarding the UK government at the moment, it is very, very worrying that you are seeing the appointment of rather nefarious figures or people that aren't necessarily even qualified to be in those roles. And I think it's important if you are in the UK that you keep a close eye on this and you see what type of legislations they're passing. For example, we had this controversial police bill where they're trying to crack down on any type of protest or dissent against the government. So I just wanted to point that out. Please do keep an eye on it. I did a survey on my Instagram and I asked people, do you know what the House of Lords does, what they are responsible for? And I think something like 17 odd people responded and 14 of those people said, no, I don't know what the House of Lords does. Right? So please do keep an eye and be aware of that. Also, I got a feature in the Independent. The Independent did this article that said fans defend Prince Harry and Meghan Markle amid breakup rumors, and they featured my now infamous tweet that was also featured in She Knows, where I said, like I was saying, William's divorcing Catherine in response to all of the divorce rumors about Harry and Meghan. Distraction. But thank you to Miss V that actually alerted me to this because I didn't see it. So just proof that they are, in fact, on these royal Twitter streets, watching us and listening to what we're saying. And instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that people believe their BS, I mean, you had these articles coming out of GB News and the Express, William facing dilemma over funding Archie and Lilibet, if Prince Harry and Meghan return. Prince Harry and Meghan considering moving out of £11 million mansion. I thought it was a £200 million mansion with 300 bathrooms, but okay. I mean, just nonsense. Trying to distract from Dan Wooten, trying to distract from other royal marriages that are failing, trying to distract that absolutely nobody cares what the other royals are doing. A big old £250 million clown a nation. But now that the real work with a small W starts, guess what? The crowds aren't showing up. This was, I believe, today. Camilla's showing up for an event. No one there. Absolutely no one there. No interest in these people outside of the pomp and pageantry. Right. We'll have to take a couple comments before we go on to the next thing. If you're just coming in, please do hit that thumbs up button, please. And subscribe. If you haven't already, we are charging towards 18,000 now. But thank you for the anonymous person who bought a coffee. Much appreciated. Yes, and of course, watch Baron. You meant Baron, right? Not Brian. Baron has just given us so many brilliant taglines and hilarious moments. I mean, I was actually in a Spaces today, and people were just like nonchalantly saying Afro Annie, and I don't even know if they know where Afro Annie comes from. It comes from Baron. Love it. Yeah, Sharian Shade, Miss V. I think Duchess Like Us may have posted recently for the first time in a while. Oh, and also Sussex Set. I haven't actually, oh gosh, I haven't watched Sussex Set in a while. I don't know if she's still even posting. Let me just double check actually. I haven't checked in on her for a while. Let's have a look. Oh, the last time she posted on YouTube was 7 months ago. But I know that she does post on her the actual podcast platforms a little bit more. But I hope she's okay. Oh, we've got Black Queen. Thank you so much for your donation. You said, Anne, is there a way you can get the Megan hater hotline parody and play it here? It's hilarious if you haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I remember that. It was done by a bunch of Australians, wasn't it? I think I know the one that you're talking about. Okay, if I can find it, I might upload it onto the channel. But I maybe won't play it in the stream because I don't know if that's heavy on the copyright. Oh, thank you so much, Doris. Listen, every single platform that is a Meghan page has their own, Meghan and Harry supporting page and news page has their own spin on things. You know, there's also a matter of fact. She's a little bit more of a fence sitter. She also does cover William and Kate as well. But she also does cover Harry and Meghan quite fairly. And there's also Meredith. Meredith takes more of an academic research kind of approach to things. I really love her. I might actually ask her to come on the podcast. I really love Meredith, so go and check her out. And there's another one, his name I'm gonna get. I might do a community post on this, but he takes more of like I think it's Sussex something. He takes more of like a comedic spin. So there's everybody has their own flair, right? You just gotta find the one that you like the most. Oh, Gmail supporters in Royal News. Oh, I think that might be the one that I'm talking about actually. In Royal News. And Prince Dre, the Duke of Receipts. Ooh, okay. I've never heard of Prince Dre. I'm gonna check him out. Prince Dre, the Duke of Receipts. Thank you. Thank you so much. As long as they are a Harry and Meghan supporter, then go support them. Right now, I'm on to Dan Wooten. Before I get on to the main story regarding Dan Wooten, and that is that, yes, if you haven't heard already, Byline Investigates have now released their third report, and there is going to be a fourth. They have said that there's going to be a fourth and possibly more. But before I get on to that, I just want to point out that the behavior from Dan Wooten, it is a pattern. Oh, yes, Hemi fan. Yes, thank you. Henry VIII. Thank you for pointing her out as well. Almost forgot about her. Henry VIII is fantastic too. But there is a pattern to his behavior and the way that he goes after people. And one of the people who he went after was Alexander Burke. Alexander Burke was one of the most promising X Factor contestants, and she has been X Factor UK. This is one of the most successful. she managed to defeat the reality TV show Curse. And on the finale of her X Factor win, she actually performed with Beyonce. It was one of, I think, the most, yeah, it was outright the most iconic moment of X Factor UK history ever. But I think that for some people, she was just too successful. And despite the fact that Alexandra Burke, actually, with the public, let's forget about the press, let's forget about her shitty management and all of the nasty people in the industry around her who were telling her all sorts of things. They were telling her that she had to bleach her skin. They were telling her that she couldn't wear braids. All of this absolute nonsense. But the British public loved Alexandra Burke. They loved her. Her first single with Out of X Factor, hugely successful. One of the highest selling singles of the year. Her album, hugely successful. The first single that she did on her album with Flo Rida, hugely successful. And yet the industry and the people around her, I just think they just couldn't take that this dark melanated sister was getting all of this love. She had a lot of mainstream appeal. And there were people in the press, one of whom being Dan Wooten, that just wanted to knock her down a peg and created this narrative around her of being a bitch. And I'm not going to play it now because it's quite distressing. But if you go to my videos tab, there's a video where she talks about, she doesn't name him, but she talks about a journalist who painted her in a negative light. And here are some articles from Dan Wooten himself, you know, painting her out to be a diva, that she was having bust-ups behind stage. And one of the things that Alexandra talks about is the day actually her mum died, her mother passed away, the day her mum died, she had to do press. And she sucked it up, went to the red carpet, and there was another journalist, because she refused to do press, because she just felt, if I do press, I'm just going to break down. There was another journalist who said, "Oh, are you being a diva? Being a diva, are you?" And she said that because of what she had heard about Alexandra through the press. And because of what Dan Wooten was writing about her in his bizarre column this is when he was working at The Sun. And at one point, Alexandra tweeted, "Dan, every time I have met you, you've been lovely. I'm finding it very hard to read all of the lies that you have published about me. I've tried my best to just be strong and brush it off, but mentally it's taken its toll. It hurts so much to read yet another fake story when all I want to do is enjoy this journey on Strictly. Please spread love. Life is too short for all of this. Love you, Alexandra." Dan Wooten is the type of person, he is that troll in college, right? We all had this person who was friendly to your face, did nice things just to get into your business, and then did a 360 and spread your business everywhere. Did it to Mariah Carey as well. Looking all nice and smiley, only to write an article saying from diva to disaster, how Mariah Carey went from ruling the music world to being the biggest laughing stock of the industry. I don't remember when Mariah was the biggest laughing stock in the industry. I remember that she had some personal issues, as we all do. I don't remember that I was laughing, wishing her the best. So this is who he is. There is a pattern here. And finally, other news outlets are starting to slowly, albeit with caution, report on Wooten. So the Daily Beast posted this yesterday. Star tabloid journo fires a warning shot over sordid double life allegations. So Daily Beast is an American outlet. So finally, some international coverage. And there were also snippets on ITV yesterday. Now, The Sun was sent a letter by the Culture, Media and Sport Committee. I do apologize. Did I actually forgot to put it on one of my slides, but I'm going to read it out. Right. So this is from the Culture, Media and Sport Committee. to Victoria Newton, the editor-in-chief of The Sun. It says, "Dear Victoria, the committee has been following the public discussion regarding the media coverage of the allegations concerning BBC News presenter Hugh Edwards. We have also written to the BBC to enable them to set out their prior actions and next steps. Our role is not to challenge individual stories or editorial decisions, but we would be grateful if you could set out the process by which The Sun verifies any story it chooses to report, especially those where issues of privacy may be at stake. The committee has previously considered this issue as part of its Trusted Voices inquiry, including the Daily Mirror, and would welcome an insight into The Sun's verification and decision-making process. Given the concerns that have been reported about inaccuracies, changing narratives, and lack of engagement with some of the parties involved, in the case of Mr. Edwards, we would also be interested to understand what was done to verify the specific story and what, if any, reviews or discussions are ongoing about the Sun's procedures in reporting in this case and any wider lessons to be learned. Since this story was reported, allegations have been made about a former employee of the Sun, Dan Wooten, who has been reported as being involved in payments for S material. We would be grateful if you could set out what investigations are taking place into this matter. I'm sure you will recognize how important it is for the public to have confidence in a newspaper's editorial standards, not only on this particular case, but across all its reporting. We look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Carol, is it Diliage? Can't read her name because she's done it in her signature. But there you go. And Miss Victoria Newton has now responded, and you can see the response on the screen here. On Mr. Wooten, we are invested by reports by Byline Times and The Guardian last week. We have appointed Kingsley Napley to assist. I think this is some kind of external firm. We take these allegations seriously, but we are in no position to comment further, and indeed, we make no commitment to make any further comment depending on the outcome of our investigation. Yours sincerely, Victoria. I mean, all they're doing, I think, is just buying time to find a way to cover their own backs. Mind you, in the second Byline, I think it was the second Byline Times report, it was said that Victoria Newton and Dan Wooten absolutely despised each other. And within a year of Victoria coming to the company, Dan Wooten was out. And a couple of days after the Queen passed, Victoria Newton was with Charles. Charles hosted her. So I don't think any of these people want to go down. And if they do end up going down, I don't think they want to go down alone. But it just shows what a nasty web we have to navigate, trying to get any type of justice or truth regarding this story with Dan Wooten and just press corruption, establishment corruption in general. Now, Byline Times have said that there's going to be a fourth investigation due tomorrow with more revelations. Then someone responded to that saying, "My God, there's more." Byline then said, "Much more. We can't predict how many more articles there will be on this, but 2 more this week, including tomorrow's." And then somebody responded to that saying, "Will your evidence be shared with the police?" And then Byline said, "Of course it has been." Right. Now we are going to read the third report. And again, I warn you that there are graphic and distressing details in this. So if you are not in that headspace to listen to anything like that, you can please leave the podcast now. But I'll just read some comments before we get on to that. Thank you so much, Kat Harlem. Thank you. You said, "I miss V and her podcast was on point and hilarious." Good to know that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Coralita Simon, for the super sticker. Alan Bellon, you said, "Anne, I think you're wrong. It looks like there's someone peeing on a tree in the background." I'm sorry, what? What? What were you, which photo was that? Were you talking about this one? Someone peeing on a train? What were you talking about, Alan Bennett? Oh, you guys. I love how you can just make the most depressing podcast that much more joyful. What would I do without you? Oh, hey, Rahini, gonna check back in 10. We'll be here. TB said Dan and many like him and the people that support him was created by the masses' acceptance of them by the people and the royal family. Sadly so. Yeah, Matthews, they should all go down. And did I not say on this here podcast a long, long time ago that the British press and its tabloid writers would become the story? They were literally setting themselves up for this. They were setting themselves up for it. Benjamin, you said, I don't understand how the press can pontificate with twisted, manufactured outrage at every little thing Harry and Meghan, and the public does nothing. Well, Wooten says whatever he pleases, and nobody says squat. That indeed. And you know what? They're not actually. They don't care about the royal family. A lot of people joined the royal fandom or only started paying attention to hate on Harry and Meghan, and that is why you have Camilla showing up to events and there's no one there. That is why you have William, the future king, showing up to events and no one's there.
Aye, Harry's alright. Aye, the Waynes are doing great. They're in America and that. Aye. In
You alright,
LA.
Willie?
Oh, hiya. That's Tam and Jeanette, pals of mine. Aye, they've not been to Disneyland. I don't think they've been there. No, my dad had a cracking birthday, thanks for asking. Aye, lovely. Had a whole side of salmon. You'll never guess. Big eyes I brought to the buffet, our homemade coleslaw. This is lovely. Thanks for inviting me. It's gorgeous. I love Scotland. I'd have wore a kilt, but I just don't have the legs for it. Oh, this is nice.
Not exactly. All right. Let's get on to this article. Let me find it. By the way, GB News have still, the last few days, been tweeting about Harry and Meghan. Still. Ugh. And Byline have reached out to the Mail for any statement regarding Dan Wooten, and they still have not had a response. They shouldn't hold their breath, because I think that they are going to do everything they can to avoid talking about this. However, the streets are talking, and I hear this is a rumor that Dan Wooten may have already been told that he has to step down from the Daily Fail. Right, just give me a sec, folks, because my computer is acting up. Let's have a look. Okay. Martin Brunning, aka Dan Wooten, his first victim. In the third part of a 3-year special investigation, Byline Times details the trauma of a man controlled for 10 years by Martin Brunning, the pseudonym of TV presenter Dan Wooten. Martin Brunning blackmailed the partner of a Murdoch journalist into making covert videos, later found hidden behind the washing machine of GB News star Dan Wooten, Byline Times can reveal. Brunning, unmasked last week by this newspaper, was an online alias used by Wooten. Okay, Brunning, Branding unmasked last week by this newspaper as an online alias used by Wooten threatened to send S material compromising the partner to their family, employers, and Facebook friends if they did not cooperate. The resulting film was later discovered on a black hard drive in a padlock holder in Wooten's East London home by his former boyfriend Alex Truby. Those tweets on 12th of July about the discovery have now been viewed over 17 million times. Wooten has since used his primetime nightly GB news show to attack Mr. Turberry's account as an untrue story, claiming to be a target of a smear campaign by nefarious players and denying criminal behavior, but not to being or being connected to Branning. Today, however, in the third part of a 3-year special investigation into Wooten's private and professional conduct, the victim, forced to make video, reveals how Branning drove him to the brink of suicide with a 10-year campaign of anonymous coercion. The partner, a man whose identity Byline Times is protecting, but who says that he will give evidence to the Met Police, said, "The fallout from this went on for years. I literally quit my London life. I lost everything. I went into the depths of depression. I definitely considered suicide. I didn't want to be around anymore. I blame myself for the whole situation. I am only coming to terms with it now. Now I want to get it sorted." And I do think that when somebody goes through something like this, there's a point to which that now I've lost everything, I have nothing to lose. So all I can say is prayers to the person who has now decided to just come forward. And you know what? Not allowing someone to hold something against you like this is the most freeing thing. And I don't think anyone who has been blackmailed by Martin Branning, anyone who comes forward is gonna be looked down upon. I don't. And I think it's so important that we keep giving this message to victims. We are absolutely united. We all have a common enemy here, right? I don't care what you were doing with who and how, saucy and spicy it was. Just come forward. We all have a common enemy and let's take him down. Your truth is the antidote to this mess. And if you come forward, they can't hold whatever it is hanging over your head against you. They really can't. And if all of these victims come forward at the same time, that's the power move right there. Okay, the article goes on. The victim revealed how Branning started sending him emails, some of which this newspaper is publishing for the first time. Today, shortly after the man, through his partner, met Wooten at a London members club in 2008 and continued until 2018. The Branning emails claim to be from a go-between on behalf of an unnamed but interested third party, offering the man, whom Wooten knew at the time was in financial trouble, up to £5,000 for a week of modelling and other work. So, just to go back a little bit, this shows just how targeted Branning was in picking his victims. Because it's the same with the other guy. He was also in financial trouble. And how would he know? How would he know that he was having financial issues, that he would be able to target this person as a victim? Because this is what criminals and abusers do. They go for the ones that are weak because they can manipulate them easily. Whether it's because they're having financial issues, whether it's because they have certain vices, that's who they go for. Right, so it goes on to say, in an email on the 26th of June, 2008, Branning wrote, "I had your email and a couple of pics you passed along to me. because I heard you might be interested in making some extra cash through the sort of modeling and other work I've got on offer. So, who was the person who told Branning, who told Wooten that this person might be interested in extra cash? And who passed his pics along to Wooten? Don't know if the person mentioned it to you, but I'd be really keen to chat with you in the future. All completely confidential, of course. So this is Wooten talking to the guy. Quizzed by the man who asked Branning, who had shared his details, Branning followed on the 27th of June by writing, well, look, it's someone who knows you through the members club, and I always promise never to pass on the details because this person has worked for me in the past. Right, so there's an unnamed middle person here. Basically, he said you are an open-minded guy who is always looking for ways to make more money, which sounded perfect to me. I do a whole range of modeling and that sort of work, which I'd like to see if you are up for it. The work turned out to be the creation of adult films made consensually between the man and a stream of individuals whose physical type Branning would dictate, with the man then locating corresponding candidates on these same-sex dating apps, Gaydar and Grindr. Once located, Branning sent handheld digital cameras to the man by motorbike courier, which were then collected in the same way once the films were made, and followed other some weeks later. And then often some weeks later by a delivery of cash. Wooten was then TV editor at the now defunct News of the World. At the time, I needed money, the victim said. It was an attractive offer. The courier would come with a video camera he would supply. I would make footage with it and send it back to the courier, arranged by Branning. There'd never be money until weeks later. I would be thinking he had stitched me up. Ultimately, money would be delivered by courier in sweaty wads of 20s, of £20 notes. Before setting the target to work, Branning gave him a list of highly personal questions, making invasive inquiries about his sexuality and finances, along with a menu of photographic requirements. I know it sounds full on, but as I say, it's completely standard, wrote Branning on the 7th of July 2008, before making directions for a series of graphic poses, along with the question, have you ever slept with a celebrity? To which the victim said no. In his journalistic career, Dan Wooten has revealed a number of men as gay or bisexual, including Duncan James from the band Blue, and a star of the BBC reality TV show The Apprentice. In November 2014, the Sun's Bizarre column, which Wooten edited at the time, even launched a so-called bi bus, testing his theory that most of us are at least a little bi, particularly in the world of celebrity. I don't know what this guy's obsession was with outing people, but that is something personal and subject to whenever that person feels like they want to come out, if at all they ever want to come out. Dangling that over people's heads and using that as a way to threaten them, especially Dan being a gay man himself. I just don't understand. I don't understand why anybody would want to talk to someone like that about their identity if it's something that they themselves have also experienced. It goes on to say, in a further email on July the 29th, 2008, Branning gave the man instructions on how to persuade targets to agree to be filmed. Branning wrote, you make it a really horny idea, and whoever you're seeing, all you need to say is, I'd love you to film me as you F me. It works with all guys, trust me. Anyway, just keep me informed with your progress. Giving his account of events to Byline Times, the man said, I wish I'd never responded to the first email, but I did. Nowadays, people do OnlyFans, a direct access subscription site, and I think it was the same kind of thing back in those days. It all seemed quite innocent, and I thought I'm not hurting anybody. Then it escalated. It got heavier once I did give some content over. The guy I was meeting, the guys I was meeting up for being filmed on camera, it was consenting. Branning pretext for applying pressure to the victim was to say that he was working on behalf of a demanding third party who seemingly had intimate knowledge of the victim's partner and their movements as a couple. Y'all, they were spying on people. They were spying on people. They were following their movements. How much do you want to bet that they were still phone hacking, still blagging, still tracking, still illegal information gathering? How much do you want to bet? Still going on. In fact, the victim had been introduced to Wooten by the victim's partner in the early stages of their relationship, and the partner who also worked for News UK. This is Rupert Murdoch's corporation. The victim said, I always felt that Dan Wooten had a strange obsession with my ex, 100%. And it was weird. And I was always saying to my ex partner, that guy is massively in love with you and is obsessed with you. And when it came to and when I came in to the relationship, you could tell that there was this jealous aspect from Wooten. It was so obvious. Branning's knowledge of details about the victim's private life soon unnerved him. How was he getting those details? That's a good question, right? And there's also another case that I'm going to look at after I finish reading this article. Petal actually looked at it in a past podcast, but I just missed that podcast, but I'm going to cover it again here. Okay, and then it goes on to say, it was odd. Sarah was going on holiday with my partner. The messages would get more intense and requirements would get more and more common. He told Byline Times. It just ramped up. And I was like, well, God, this guy knows too much about me. That was the scary thing. And it was just frightening, really. I couldn't get away. Anywhere I felt like I was under scrutiny in some way, shape, or form. And you lose trust with a lot of people that you know because you start thinking, well, it's got to be someone feeding information to who I thought was a genuine person. I had no idea. Now, does that not sound like phone hacking to you? Does that not sound like exactly what phone hacking victims said that they went through? They didn't know where this information was coming from that had been leaked. Things started to come to a head when Branning told the victim to make a film with his partner, who, when asked, said he did not want to make one consensually. The victim said it started with, do you know this guy? I told him I was not going to do this, but the pressure was mounting. He went on. I said it's not going to happen. He's not interested. It will be difficult to obtain what you want. But then I was told, just take some discreet pictures if you can. But he refused. Branning became ruthless. Branning said, if you don't get this footage, then there are consequences, and you don't want your employer to find out or your friends and family to know what you've been doing. He continued, no one wants their mum and dad to see you effing someone. And that's what it was. Well, if you don't, your family and friends and your colleagues and your employers are going to see what you've been doing. You know, that was the heaviest part of it. I did try to just ignore and tell him to F off, basically. But then it just got more intense. Okay, so I think this is the last part. It goes on to, you really don't know the damage caused. After Branning threatened the partner and offered them money and, crucially, the promise to make it the final demand of them, he reluctantly agreed to secretly make the video, which Alex Truebury would later find before confronting Wooten, who Mr. Truebury said made a tearful confession to being Branning. The man said it was a barrage of pressure to get this, or otherwise your cover will be blown. In the end, I was like, F it, let's just do it. Asked if he was blackmailed into it, the then ex-partner said, yes. He added, the guilt and the shame of actually doing what I've done to someone that I was in a relationship with that's the thing that to this day makes me feel sick, because there's consequences to that. I still can't forgive myself for doing that to somebody else. So it just shows you how other people innocently got pulled in to this nasty dark web, because that person didn't know that they were being filmed. He said it was well edited. Oh, sorry, I skipped a little bit. The strain it put on the relationship began to take a toll, and it foundered and failed after Branning made good on his threat to expose the victim's work for him by sending an edit of the worst bits to his partner. He said it was well edited. It was just a montage of me and things that I'd send out. That this guy knows how to get a hold of people that are very, very close to me. In an email sent to Branning on the 30th of May 2011, the victim said, "The video of me was sent to my partner with footage of every person I'd been with and sent to you. You promised me that wouldn't happen. You really don't know the damage caused." To which Branning replied, "Must have been the other guy, because he was getting really annoyed you couldn't get any footage with a partner who I think he knows." So those were email exchanges between them. What followed was a campaign apparently designed to chase the ex out of town and ensure his future silence, he said, and then it was harassment. It was horrendous. I left London to get away from it all. I changed my phone number, blocked all of these Martin Branning email addresses that would come in, but he still managed to get a hold of me up until 2018, when it all stopped. No explanation as to why. So the article ends by saying the victim only became aware of the connection between Branning and Dan Wooten after Byline unmasked him as a serial catfish who has used various online identities to trick and bribe scores of men into revealing compromising S material. While this newspaper has repeatedly asked representatives for Wooten to confirm or deny whether the presenter was or is connected to Branning, it has not received a response. Wooten has said he denies any allegations of criminality. The man said he never clapped eyes on Dan Wooten again since their first meeting, until I saw him once at another members club, and he was like, "Hi, how are you?" And I just told him to F off, basically. I had no idea. I just didn't like him. As a person, I had no idea he was the person who was posing as Branning. Jesus. Right, so that's pretty much the end of the article. It just reiterates what the investigation has been uncovering, and of course, more to come. All right, I mean, what do you even say to that? What do you even say to that? And the fact that he's still on there, the fact that GB News is still posting things about Meghan, the fact that Piers Morgan has gone on a rant about the Barbie movie, like we didn't have 5 terrible Transformers movies, ranting about a movie about a toy, and completely and utterly ignoring the main story, which is Dan Wooten, aka Martin Branning. And I think that we are going to be following the story for a while, because it seems like, but anyway, Dan Wooten isn't backing down. GB News hasn't taken him off the air. The Sun is flip flopping. Another question is, where is this blackmail money coming from? Is Dan Wooten pulling from his own pockets? Or is there someone else giving him money to pay off these people? Because regardless of how sick and twisted Dan Wooten might be, that is an awful lot of money to be giving out to feed your nasty fantasies. And it seems like there are other people who are also implicated in this, who had an interest in framing celebrities. Now, just to end, all of this reminded me of another case. And like I said earlier, Petal actually covered this. I just missed it when she did. But there was another case with a gentleman named Levi Davis. Now, Levi Davis was a former X Factor contestant. He disappeared in Spain and under some very, very mysterious circumstances. Now, before he disappeared, he made a video which he posted to his Instagram, which was then deleted. But he made a video, and the video has been saved, and you can look for it online, where he says that he was being blackmailed, he was being followed, he was being threatened, that he didn't know who to go to for help, that he believed that the police had been infiltrated, which is why he wasn't getting any help. He had tried to restart life in Australia, but the situation followed him there, so he came back to the UK, still wasn't getting any help. And then went to Barcelona, was perhaps, nobody knows, but perhaps he was lured there and then just disappeared. Now, another interesting thing about Levi Davis is that he went public about being bi. He texts his rugby teammates to tell them. And then he also did a feature in the papers. Now, that is a brave move, a very groundbreaking move, because he was the first rugby player to be open about his sexuality. But as a black man, I think that there is a lot more prejudice, both inside and outside of the community. If you are a person of color coming out as LGBT, and I am just not convinced, knowing the prejudice that he already faced as a black man, and then coming out, and then being the first to come out. I'm wondering, did he actually want to come out? Or was he forced to come out? Knowing everything that we now know, that he was also being blackmailed. Because as a black man, that is a hell of a lot more weight on your shoulders to be the first to come out. So I'm wondering, was he perhaps pressured? And then you also have the X Factor link. And we know that Dan Wooten, and again, I'm not saying that Dan Wooten had anything to do with this case. I'm just saying it is mighty suspicious. But Dan Wooten had been given access to X Factor, backstage access, as early as 2011. And there have been so many stories of X Factor contestants coming out and saying, I was abused, things were happening backstage that I can't talk about. There's one contestant who allegedly had to leave the country and start a life somewhere else. So you've got three things there. You've got this man who was being blackmailed. You've got this man who came out as bi, and we know that Dan Wooten seems to have this obsession with outing people instead of just leaving them, in their peace to come out when they are ready. And the fact that he was on X Factor, and the fact that he wasn't getting any help from the police or his club. What's even more weird about this Levi Davis case is that the private investigator who decided to take up the case is the same private investigator who flip-flopped on Prince Harry. So this Gavin Burrows guy, and I've covered him on this podcast before, I felt that he was very suspicious. He has been involved in looking into this case. Now, what I would like to know is, did the family approach him to look into this case, or did he approach the family to look into this case? And Gavin Burrows had initially said that he helped with illegal information gathering. He was even on the press and the Princess and the Press, sorry, where he apologized for his behavior to Prince Harry, then started claiming that he was Prince Harry's friend. He even had it in his Twitter bio, and then started tweeting all these weird things about Prince Harry's case. And then myself and several other squaddies said, hang on a minute, why are you tweeting about the case? This is not something that you should be doing. And this is not something that anybody who deals with Harry and Meghan, this is not how they behave. And then he then got very defensive and then blocked a bunch of us, including myself. Only for the court case to come, and then he starts flip-flopping. So I'm hoping that Levi's family knows about all of this and that they just let this man go and don't have him be involved with any of this, because what's even more creepy is that Gavin Burrows has been on GB News. He was on GB News to actually talk about this case of the disappearance of Levi. And he has been tweeting about and hashtagging Dan Wooten and Piers Morgan. And just to go in a little bit more detail about this case. So he said that Levi, in his statement before he disappeared, said that the information that he gave to the police went directly back to these individuals. He says, I understand that the police is full of good people trying to do their job, but I also understand that there is a large amount of police corruption, and the only way that these people would have had access to my private interviews with the police is through being leaked. This is very similar to what Kevin Sutherland said, the other man who is a victim of Wooten. And Levi also said that they also, to my knowledge, had access to my medical records, as they have reiterated things to me, that only I have had conversations with the NHS. And again, very similar to what Kevin Sutherland said. How did Dan Wooten know so much about me? He also says that he was deceived by a person that he met through his friendship with an unnamed famous person. He says, we started a relationship, a friendship. We saw each other many times. But the last one, I was drugged and blackmailed. They drugged me, they odd me, and recorded me and blackmailed me with the videos. And there's more details about other X Factor contestants who actually corroborate what Levi said, including one person who came forward and said that they had to give up on music and run away from the country, and is now living in a Muslim country. They didn't say which one, but he chose to run away because of what happened to him on the X Factor. And he says that he was doing okay as a performer, but he says that everything Levi is saying is the absolute truth. Following Levi's case being brought to light, Mr. Burrows said that we have received valuable alleged information from a number of former participants and other fellow contestants over a number of the years in the X Factor program who have confirmed the claims made in Davis's videos seems to be true. Oi, I mean, just tragic all around. And again, I'm not saying that Dan Wooten specifically had anything to do with Levi's disappearance and his blackmailing, but it's very suspicious. This is actually, you can see on the screen, another article that Dan Wooten wrote. So this was back in 2017, and it was an exclusive in The Sun, where Dan Wooten said that stars, including Hollywood actor, fear mass tape leak after Amir Khan's X-rated Skype video is posted on a PORN site. And the article, even strangely enough, went into great detail telling you the celebrities that fear being exposed and also how the whole thing works and how these celebrities are being blackmailed. And my question to Dan Wooten, the Sun, is if you had this exclusive, why didn't you go to the police? And isn't it weird that Dan Wooten has a huge exclusive on numerous celebrities that are being blackmailed and extorted through a so-called POR insight? I am out of energy. My voice hurts. My head hurts. My heart is heavy. And all I can say is that I hope in some way, somehow, we can get to the bottom of this and justice can be served. And with that, thank you as always, everyone, for coming. I'm just going to finish with your comments and then we will call it a day. That was a very heavy podcast, and just thank you so much for your support. And share this around, get the news out, because the fact that all of this can happen and there is just a keep calm and carry on attitude with the tabloid press really says something about the UK as a country, that this is being allowed to go on. And the press influence literally how much of the nation feels, acts, votes, and these very sorted individuals are in the driving seat of that. But it's definitely going to be a showdown and a hoedown, because none of these people want to go down. And if they do, they probably don't want to go down alone. Boy. Sonia, they won't talk about Dan Wooten because who knows what's in their closet. Indeed. Jessica, the blackmail money is coming from Dan Wooten's customers. Yes. And the question remains is, who are his customers? Who are his customers? Yes, KRH. That's actually a very good term to describe what Dan Wooten does. Internalized oppression. When you get into a position of power and then you want to oppress the other people who you actually should be uplifting and helping when you're in that position of power. He should be uplifting and helping his community. Oh yeah, Perez Hilton is another one. A bully with a platform. Yeah, Karma will visit Perez Hilton soon. I mean, I think that with Perez Hilton, he's already irrelevant. That's a Karma phase 1. We're just waiting for phase 2 when he's exposed. I mean, it could be Dan. It might not be. It might be someone connected to him. But it's just very suspicious when you put all the things together. You put everything together. The fact that he was so brave to come out the way that he did. And the first, knowing that he may have something to lose. The fact that he was on X Factor. The fact that he's saying he was blackmailed. The fact that he was saying the police may have been compromised. And that I think in the video, he also brings up a journalist that may have been involved. So it's a very, very similar case. And it just sounds like a whole ring. Like Sadie said, how many bodies have these criminals collected? Who knows? Who knows? Little Mac, you said this private investigator is very shady. So every one of them is tied to the Fail of the Sun. Yeah, the Fail of the Sun of GB News. That's another thing with the Levi case. The fact that this particular private investigator who flip-flopped on Prince Harry is involved in this case. has gotten himself involved in this case? Very suspicious. Now, Lightside, you said maybe we need to resurface all of these stories again. There may be a connection, but what about the ones we don't know about yet? Indeed. Indeed. Little Mac, X Factor would have gotten medical records as part of signing you up as a contestant. I don't know what the process is, but maybe that could be how they may have gotten information. That's a good point. And Lewis, those programs, X Factor and Love Island, people should avoid if you're looking for fame. A person's life can be ruined by the tabloids. Yes, and there are people who have gone on these shows and committed suicide. There was one particular male contestant who was on Love Island, and they basically made him into this villain character. I think his name was Mike, and the press dubbed him Muggy Mike. Muggy Mike is going to mug you off and break your heart. And yeah, he offed himself. And you literally have to be willing to debase yourself to go on these shows. Especially, maybe not so much X Factor in or back in the day anyway, because it's to some extent about talent. But Love Island, oh my goodness. I could do a whole podcast about how much I hate Love Island and just what a bad influence I think that show is. You know, there's been a lot of back and forth about Love Island and lack of diversity on Love Island. Let me be the first to say that I don't want to see diversity on Love Island. No, thank you. I don't want to see Love Island at all. But you're right, Anne Lewis. It can really ruin your life. And you have no control because the show and the tabloid press turn you into a character. You're just a character. And if they paint you as an angel, you're lucky. If they paint you as a villain, there's nothing that can prepare you for that. There's nothing that can prepare you for the onslaught of being painted a villain by the tabloid press and the way that people will come after you. Yes, Vargas, you really have to be careful who you deal with or associate with, especially in the entertainment business. Unfortunately, with shows like The X Factor, I think that you've got a lot of young people who go into these shows with stars in their eyes. They don't really understand the industry. You know, they don't understand that, you know, they just put these young people on this conveyor belt. You know, I remember back in the day, in my day, look at me sounding old. In my day, you used to go to the clubs, you used to sing your heart out, you know, you did the open mic nights, and, you know, you'd get discovered by someone. Not that it wasn't CD back then, it was still CD. But there was just this natural way in which talent got found. And I think that the music industry has just gotten worse and worse and worse. You have to very much bend to a certain look and sound and imagery, and it may not be authentic to who you are. But because you've got these young people, especially when they go on these shows, they're just so desperate for fame and adoration and to be noticed and to be part of the it crowd. It's very, very easy to manipulate them. Yes, prayers to that young man. There is actually a theory that he might still be alive, but that he's being controlled by these gangs. At least that's what Gavin Burrows said, and we know that he's a flip-flop. But that is a theory, because they've never found him dead or alive, so they just don't know. But prayers to him and his family. Can't imagine what they're going through. Little Mac, you said, I heard Simon Cowell used to trade partners with Piers Moron. Yeah, there was a madam who claimed this. He also got the wife of a friend pregnant, and she is now his current. I think the boy is about 5 years old now. Yeah. What's it? William is one of his customers. listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know for sure anything. But there's got to be something. There has got to be something with William and Dan Wooten and Jason Knopf and what was his name? Callum something, and the other one who worked at the palace. There's got to be something. All right, folks. I will end it there. Thank you so much for your support. And we'll see where this story goes. As the new details come in, I will let you know. And yes, there is another byline report coming in tomorrow. So day at a time. Keep your heads up. We have got the Harry and Meghan birthdays fundraiser coming. We have got something positive coming. And hopefully maybe Harry and Meghan will bless us with some cool projects. Although with Invictus coming, I can imagine the focus now will actually be on Invictus and the Invictus documentary. So we have got some nice things to look forward to, okay? Keep the good vibes, and I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.
Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm back like black track suit with a black top cap. People love to try, people love to lie. People forget stuff, remember that. We done them good, you remember that. We needed someone, here's the facts. But people love to try, people love to lie. Yeah, this is London, mind the gap. Living life just multitasking. Smile like a horror movie, I'm laughing. Motivated and focused, crafting. Dash something in a break, all your eggs in a basket. Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Please don't try it. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm right. Vibes are here when I am outside. Born for the flows to keep the flow tight. Tell me why they love to lie. Soul is dark but the mind is bright. Nocturnal, we live for the night. You wanna try but yeah, not quite. Monster with the bars, yeah, I might bite. If I have to, I tighten up the mic. See me, I don't do it for the likes. Keep it Air Max, yeah, like my knives. Ooh, I like to plan before I strike. But what do they know? Frequency's high, it never gets low. But yeah, what do they know? You're dripping in drama from head to toe. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always?
All right, today we're going to talk about how we can find out and how much we can find out and what it takes to get there. So first we have to decide how much do we want to find out. So let's say in this case, I want to find out at a level of 7. Okay, so I find that level on my graph and I come horizontally to my gradient line. Where it intersects with my gradient line, I'm going to come straight down to where it intersects with my fuck around line. That there is going to tell me how much I have to fuck around to find out what I need to find out. See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. And also, if you stay down here and you never fuck around, you'll never find out. So I hope this lesson is helpful. Thank you.